Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B. And my last few videos, the last week, it's been dark, energy, deep diving into more stuff, excavating out a lot of the addiction template that I carried with me, and digging out other things that are interconnected with that. Shame, depression, just dark vibes, dark energy. And it's been, as it always is, a rough journey through the shadow. That's the only way that we can excavate the shadow, is to go through the shadow, is to face our shit, to own our shit. And in so doing, I have been really facing a challenging idea around forgiveness. And I don't think I've actually done a video around forgiveness, because it's something that I myself have struggled to find a happy medium with. And there's a reason for that. I think in keeping with a lot of New Age teachings and spiritual teachings, and kind of a false positivity approach, that forgiveness can be very detrimental. So I wanted to do kind of a little look, a deeper look at forgiveness on both sides of the spectrum, because we also tend to only focus on one side of the paradigm, which is we should forgive those that have harmed us. And so let's look at that first. Okay, so first we're going to take a look at the approach, but we're going to look at it through the lens of a trauma survivor. Because children who have been abused have been forced to forgive their abuser over and over again. If there has been perpetual abuse that has occurred, for their very survival, they have to go down to the dinner table the next day, or, later that evening, get tucked in bed, or, sent off to school and hold hands with the person that hit them, sexually abused them, raged at them, bullied them, mocked them, and they had to be immediately, or, as close to immediately, in the energy of forgiveness as possible. And so there is this indoctrination in regards to forgiveness that is more detrimental to a trauma survivor than it needs to be, for sure, as well as it can cause a loop into the system. It's like a pre-programmed loop that when bad things happen, we auto-forgive, is the automatic response, which therefore reenacts out in our lives what is known as reenactment abuse. We get into more abusive situations, friendships, workplaces, romantic relationships, with individuals that cross boundaries, are abusive, can be narcissistic, or can have their own traumas at play, in which we excuse and we forgive their behaviors over and over again. And the problem with that is we end up enabling the problem to continue, even though we might be in an energy of like, let's resolve this, let's figure this out, let's do things differently. I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. So this indoctrination of forgiveness needs to be really addressed through the lens of a trauma survivor, with the caveat or the small print attached to it that says, do it from a distance, and make sure that the person is actually, that is forgiving, is asking forgiveness, is actually changing their behaviors. Because if the behaviors aren't changing and the abuses just continue and continue, what you're on is a karmic loop. And you're forgiving these things, and then they do it again. And then you're forgiving these things, and you're doing it again. And listen, I understand that, because I was pre-programmed to be overly forgiving for abuses that happened to me. And then I became, an automatic forgiver. Oh, you didn't text me back, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm sure there was a logical reason for it. I haven't heard from you in a week. That's okay. That's okay. Oh, you're raging at me? Oh, well, you had a bad day at work? Oh, okay. Yeah, you said you were sorry, so you must mean it. So the next time that you rage at me, I'm sure there'll be another perfectly logical explanation. And anything else, and it can go to the extreme of physical, emotional, psychological, sexual abuses that we just, knee-jerk reaction let people away with. An alcoholic, oh, you got drunk again, it wasn't your fault, you drank too much. Yeah, okay, I'll clean up the mess, I'll tidy this, I'll do that. And so I think that forgiveness on this side of the equation needs to be accompanied by the awareness that forgiveness doesn't mean tolerance, doesn't mean acceptance, and it doesn't mean giving somebody the space to do it again. So I think that we need to reclassify what forgiveness means. It means getting as far away from toxic situations as possible, and sitting with the energy, allowing yourself to go through all of the natural stages that one requires to heal from toxic situations, which is the 5 stages of grief. Allow yourself to go through the tears and the sadness and the sorrow and the anguish and the anger and the rage and the hatred and the disgust and the frustration, and like all of the emotions, and then get to a place where, like, I don't need to have this anymore. As opposed to like calling somebody up and saying, oh, by the way, I've sat with this for a year and I forgive you. In all of my years trying to understand forgiveness from the perspective of somebody who was abused, I felt like I was banging my head against a wall for years, not fully grasping how it works, because everybody kept telling me to forgive, which sounded like everybody was telling me I didn't have a right to be angry or upset about it. And that's certainly not what forgiveness means. Forgiveness means allowing yourself to feel fully everything that you feel, and allow yourself to get somewhere safe. Do not tolerate it, repetitive behaviors, regardless of how many times somebody lip services the words I'm sorry. Like, the words I'm sorry mean very little to me now. I've heard the words I'm sorry, but unless they are accompanied by extreme behavioral changes, like dramatic behavioral changes that are observable over a very long period of time, then what you have is a cycle that will just repeat. In my own situation, when I received my confession, and it was like, I've never loved you, but I love you now and I'm sorry. And that's when the love bombing began and the hoovering began and the sucking back in. And so I did what I was programmed to do. Well, okay, I'll think about it. I'll maybe give you another chance. Let's go slow. I'm going to observe the changed behaviors because I had already managed to escape and establish a certain amount of boundary. And I wanted more than anything to be Gwyneth Paltrow and have a conscious uncoupling where we could be friends. And I was, for a good portion of time, deluded because I couldn't fully accept and grasp everything that had been confessed to me, to say, okay, maybe there's a pathway through this. Maybe there's a pathway through this. I'm going to try to find forgiveness. But at the same time, I was in observer. So as soon as there was a repetition of, I was noticing, oh, we're getting some devaluing energy coming in here. I'm recognizing that. Oh, we're getting some stress, some chaos being presented to me here that's trying to get me enmeshed in again. That's a no. And oh, that was a lie. That was a definitive lie. And that's when I was able to go completely no contact. And that was what was necessary. So forgiveness is something that needs to be recognized as potentially dangerous for a trauma survivor and an abuse survivor. And when we recognize that, then we say, okay, if forgiveness isn't second chances, those are two totally different things. Forgiveness, in my opinion, is about releasing all of the emotions that have been created because of this situation and process through them. And then, okay, this doesn't bother me anymore. I've processed through it enough that it no longer has a charge. I no longer have an emotional response. If I hear the name of that person or see their car in a car park, or something comes up that reminds me of them, I no longer have an emotional charge. And so to help facilitate forgiveness, I kind of look at it like God is, or the spirit or the divine, is a collection agent, and you sell your debts to them. And I even said to my ex, you owe me probably, close to 6,000 apologies for every single day that we were together that was a lie, which was the entire relationship, close to 15 years. So obviously collecting 6,000 I'm sorries isn't actually going to make a bit of difference. It's just not. There isn't. There needs to be something way bigger than that in play for me to ever believe that person has changed, and that they, have repented, and they have found a way to course correct their life. And so I've said to God, okay, God, please take all of these debts, and how I transmute the debts to God is through my tears and through my screams and my banging on the pillow and my getting up and dancing it out, and the anxiety, the angst, whatever comes up. And that's I'm giving all of this stuff to you, and you can collect. You can collect the 6,000 I'm sorries. You can collect the course corrected behaviors. You're in charge of how that plays out. Let the divine be the one that calls on the telephone and goes, yes, hello, I'm calling about your accounts. They're overdue. And so I keep giving forgiving. I keep giving all of my stuff, my angst, my anger, my sacred rage, my sacred hatred. And those are very powerful and important energies because they prevent us from going back. Sacred rage, sacred hatred. You know, people look at the word hatred and they go, oh, you shouldn't hate anyone. Well, you should damn well hate the situation that happened to you. If somebody steals your sense of safety, you have absolutely right to feel hatred towards what they did. Maybe not to them, but what they did. Their behaviors were hateful acts, and we can hate hateful acts. If we don't hate hateful acts, we would maybe perpetuate them or tolerate them or anything else. Hatred says, hells to the no, fuck off with that, and keep on fucking off until the far distance of as far as you can fuck off, and then fuck off even more. You know, take a flying leap off the cliff of fuck off land. And that is important energy. Otherwise, if we just are always in positivity and forgiveness and everything's going to be okay, what we do is we open the doorway to let others or the same energy keep coming in, keep coming in, keep coming in. So how we transmute the hatred and alchemize those toxic energies, because we don't want to carry them with us and burn, you know, as the saying goes. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to fall down dead. We don't want to hold on to it. We want to release it. So we release it. I am so angry. You know, scream it to the heavens if you want. Go into the forest and shout your head off. I don't have a lot of anger. I had more, for me, it was wetter emotions. I had a lot of sorrow and anguish and just devastation at what was done. So that was expressed through a lot of wailing. Like my poor kids at some stage, I thought for sure they'd be like, what is happening in that room? Because I would just be wailing, crying and releasing and like, please give. I'm giving all of these tears, all of these wails, all of these feelings. Please collect my debt for me. Please collect my debt. So that's the first part of what I wanted to talk about in regards to forgiving. But there's another element, because everything is a spectrum. And you know, karma means that there is duality, there is polarity, there is two sides of the coin. So if we're constantly looking at the side of the coin where I have to forgive, what about what it is to be forgiven through the eyes of a trauma survivor? Because this too has a hook in it that a lot of people have difficulty with. And this is actually the birthplace of self-loathing and self-hatred. And because oftentimes when somebody is raised in a narcissistic household and they are experiencing a lot of punishment, ridicule, rage, emotional dysregulation, these types of energy, when that child does something wrong, which children do, people make mistakes, okay? So we're learning from not only, oh, okay, I have to forgive the fact that these people made mistakes to me, I myself have made mistakes. So let's look at it through the I've made mistakes point of view now. So I have made mistakes in my life. And as a child, perhaps I had a very rageful parent, or a very narcissistic, manipulative, and devaluing parent. And how this plays out is when a child from a healthy household makes a mistake, the parent says to them, it's okay, you made a mistake. Now you can learn from your mistake and you can do things differently. So we learn how to transmute through mistakes. We learn what it is to be forgiven. We learn what it is to move on in a healthier, more aware place. We're like, oh, okay, it's safe for me to make mistakes. It doesn't make me a horrible human. It just makes me learning. And then there's like a peaceful process. But if you are raised in an unhealthy environment where you have a parent like mine, who, when you made a mistake, it was rubbed in your face for the rest of your life, there was never forgiveness, then what happens is you get hyper vigilant and panicked and paranoid about making mistakes because you know they will never, ever let you off the hook. And whether that is you're a 28-year-old man and you're still being reminded of the temper tantrums that you used to have, or you're a 48-year-old woman and you're still being reminded of, how you behaved at 15 and the party that you threw in the house, or it's constantly just being rubbed in your face. So when you made mistakes, they became critical. Not just, they didn't become learning experiences, they became critical devastation situations that you would have to carry the shame of for the rest of your life. And that type of programming sets a default program that I am a bad person, that there's fundamentally something wrong with me because I'm doing things that apparently are causing like mass devastation, and I had better be perfect. So then we have the perfection program or template that can be implemented, or I have to appear perfect. And appearing perfect and being perfect are two different things. So you have the perfection paradigm where on the one end is somebody is working their balls off to be perfect. All their cutlery is all lined up perfectly. They're in their bedroom. And trust me, this is where I would have tried to lean into. My clothing is all color coordinated. The cans are facing forward. Things have to look a certain way, be a certain way, because it's got to be perfect. Because anything, any misdemeanor, anything out of line, including me and how I live, could be used as a form of ridicule. But the other side of the coin of the perfection template or paradigm is appearing perfect. And welcome to the birthplace of narcissistic energies, because these people are covert in their attempts to appear a certain way, but that is a manipulative energy that isn't founded in actual perfection. It's founded in imperfection and also self-hatred, but it presents out as, listen, I just need you to think I'm perfect. I'm not perfect, but I need you to think that. So I'll show up and I'll do certain types of activities to be exceptionally charming. Go out of your way to help people. These are the nice guys, and nice girls. They'll just appear so nice to your face and say the nicest things ever, but behind your back, they'll slander you. They'll gossip about you. They'll stick a knife in your back faster than you can say boo. They'll betray you. They'll have disloyalty. They'll be lying. Is built into this program because everything is a lie. I'm not actually perfect. I'm just pretending to be. And where this one over here is, I know I'm not perfect, but I better be. If I'm not perfect, I'm gonna get in trouble. There's always I'm gonna get in trouble. And so the birthplace of both of these is a traumatic situation where a child grew up in a household where they were never forgiven for their misdemeanors, for acting up, for being naughty. They would be punished severely, inappropriately. I know all about that. And then further, they would have been ridiculed about it. Maybe it would have come up at the dinner table and they would have shamed you in front of other family members. Or maybe at parties, you would be the laughing stock because they would take some of these stories of things that you had done and use it in a way to devalue you, minimize you. And then we get into the energy of self-loathing. So, on the path of forgiveness, if we're looking at this, we have to learn how to forgive ourselves since that energy was never given to us. And then what happens is you go out into the world and, you'll make mistakes and you'll be like, well, why does nobody forgive me for my mistakes? Why does everybody react so strongly to my mistakes? And it's because we've never learned the process of how to make mistakes. There's an art to making mistakes. There's an art to owning your mistakes. And it's beautiful when it's done authentically. So one of my soul kids, I love him to bits. And, he on occasion has made some like basic mistakes around the household, like leaving stuff in the dishwasher or whatever. He's a young man, but, and I'll be like, we need to pay attention. We have a family little chat, and I'm like, there's mess left in the kitchen. Can somebody please take care of this? And he immediately will always go, oh, I'm sorry, that was my bad. I'll go do it right away. And I'm like, what just happened? What? How did that work? Because I wasn't raised to understand. So they teach me as much as I teach them. And in fact, I've always considered my own son from the time he was born to be a far wiser soul than I was. Like he was just born calm, collected, grounded, like he's Taurus. So he grounds my crazy, fiery Sagittarius energy. So yes, don't discount that, think that we know everything. Our kids know a lot, which actually ties in a lot to the energy of learning how to both apologize and accept apologies. Because throughout my parenting experience, I've made mistakes. I didn't have a good role model. And my parenting approach was based on anything that was done to me, do the opposite. And that caused some of its own problems, because you go from one extreme to the other extreme. And as well as I did a lot of, really deep dives into how other cultures raise their children, and it took a lot of lessons from the Native community. My Addictions Counselling course was a Native-based course here in Canada. And then on top of that, learning Adler as a psychologist. I really resonated with his philosophies for child development. But anyways, side note, off I went there. So when I made a mistake as a parent, which we do, we lose our temper, or, we get emotional, or, something, I would then say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I am not a perfect parent. I'm learning how to parent too. And so I've always been very free with my apologies to my son when I recognize that I've made them. And some of them have been doozies, apologizing for not leaving my marriage sooner, for being trapped in it. I've mentioned in other videos, it was detrimental for his development. And I love the fact that he was able to come to me and say, listen, I felt really abandoned. And he had absolutely every right to feel that way, because I was so busy dealing with all the chaos all the time and trying to protect him that I was like way over here when he was like, basically on his own, way too much, entertaining himself, because I had to be dealing over here. So I'm sorry. And that's one I will be probably apologizing for a while, in the sense that I have to take ownership of it, and I have to, like, it's going to take time for there to be established new ways of being, and new patterns and new interactions. So as I said, forgiveness is the starting point of a lot of process that follows. The Catholics call it repenting. I don't really use the word repenting, but ownership, taking ownership, and altering behavior, and altering your patterns and things like that. But where I had started from, come full circle, is we have to learn how to apologize, and also we have to learn how to be forgiven. If you've never been forgiven before, and that starts with, I suppose, learning how to forgive ourselves, and how to believe that we are forgiven. Because I was talking with a friend yesterday, and it really, like, struck a note, because in this, going back and looking at my 20s and how I was in my 20s, I did stupid shit. I made serious mistakes that I really deeply regret. Now, I learned from all of those mistakes, and I altered my behavior dramatically. But then, going through this insane spiritual awakening, you've got everything shoved back in your face again. And I was talking to a friend, and I said, "Do you think God forgives me? Because, am I getting punished? Is that what this awakening is? Is this awakening a punishment?" And she's like, "Oh my God, no. It is not a punishment." And I said, "Well, I only know punishment that lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. I don't know. I've never experienced, like, what it is to be let off the hook and forgiven because of how my mother raised me." And she said some nasty things about my mother, but then moved on to, she's like, "God forgives. But I wasn't raised with a God, and I was raised with an unforgiving mother." And when we are, those two are like shells. Our parents is the first to teach us what it is to be forgiven. And if our parents haven't taught us, then spirit is supposed to teach us that. But then, so then we have extra traumas that can be, like, compressed on top of each other, because if the religious institution that you were in, or the lack thereof of a religious institution, didn't teach you what it is to be forgiven, then it only exacerbates and compounds the self-hatred and the self-loathing and the thinking that you're a bad person. So nobody is a bad person. People do bad things. People do bad things because they've been traumatized, and they haven't learned how to effectively make mistakes and take ownership for their mistakes. And the whole thing around forgiveness needs to stop being looked at through this singular telescope that says, you need to forgive all for you to be healthy, and open its perspective into understanding that it's like those Venn diagrams that intersect, that forgiveness, giving forgiveness on the other end of the spectrum, means understanding how forgiveness works and how to forgive yourself. And having those in balance, because when we don't have an energy of, I know what it's like to be forgiven, then we can be overly forgiving to others. And if we don't have an energy, if we have a depletion in not forgiving others, we can have an abundance of, I'm going to forgive myself of anything. I'm not going to hold myself accountable for anything. So, you see, we got to bring those two back into balance of, I can forgive others, but I also forgive myself for my involvement here, and take accountability for myself. So we're balancing forgiveness and being forgiven. We're balancing accountability on both sides. I'm going to hold myself accountable, and I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to expect that there's going to be ownership for your part in this and ownership for my part in this. And I'm going to go like this way over here and say, if I'm not safe in this, if this isn't countered energy, then what we have at play is a narcissist empath paradigm that's going to be a karmic loop and a karmic loop until we shut it down and bring back into balance. The empath needs to forgive self and stop hating on self and start taking care of self and being accountable for self and like loving on self. And the narcissistic energy needs to start giving a crap about other people and how the wake of destruction that they're leaving in their path, the hurt, the pain, and alter the behavior. So they're not putting self first through manipulation. They're putting self first through understanding that when they go out in the world and they manipulate, they lie, they cheat, they do all their shitty things, that the person they're ultimately hurting is themselves anyways. Just because it's worked for an extended period of time, it won't work forever. Why? Because at the top of it is spirit, and spirit is listening and paying attention to everything. And spirit is going to right these two things in divine justice, one way or another. And so that's when, if we ourselves aren't doing the lessons that we need to learn, so the empath isn't pulling themselves up out of the depths of self-loathing and learns to forgive themselves for staying in situations that they shouldn't have stayed in, or for the mistakes that they made that were mistakes and they've learned from and altered and changed, and they're caring and compassionate and loving people, and they deserve goodness and kindness and loving energies restored to them. And so this group will be pulled up by spirit. Spirit will show them, hey, it's time to pull yourself up. And spirit will say to these ones that are way up here, sitting high on the horse, maybe, in charming false pretenses, a whole bunch of bullshittery being used. Yeah. You're going to get humbled a good bit and be brought back down and say, hey, wait a second, there needs to be some debt paid, some atonement made to this situation. So this is the karmic, balancing of the scales, that dynamic there. So today or yesterday, I've been in the energy, okay, I really need to focus on what it is to be forgiven, to feel forgiven, to let spirit remind me what it is to be forgiven, because this program that everything that I do wrong will be used against me for the rest of my life, and I will suffer for that for the rest of my life, and I will be punished for the rest of my life, is a faulty program. It is a faulty program. Forgiveness is possible for all things. We have to work at it, though. And so this pathway back into alignment is understanding, yes, all people have trauma. Trauma affects people and divides them. So divide and conquer is working wonders. Divide and conquer, and we're going to go out, and this group is going to stop at nothing to appease and people please and beat themselves up and self-loathe and all this depression and everything else. And this group of people is going to go and they're going to do horrible acts, and they need to find the way back into balance, because we need to have a little bit of self and we need to have a little bit of others in the mix. And so these ones are lacking self and these ones are lacking others. And so if we can manage to bring these two energies together, so we are balanced in taking care of self, forgiving self, loving self, but at the same time showing up in the world in a kind, compassionate, loving energy, then that is what's going to completely and utterly transform and change the world around us. is when we start to see more and more people taking accountability. And when they take accountability, forgiving themselves, learning the path of forgiveness, balancing the karma, working with spirit to balance the karma, then we will start to see some really miraculous things start to happen. And for some people, they don't want to take ownership. Nobody does. Nobody wants to put their hand up and own their shit. I did some of that yesterday, and it's painful. There's nothing more painful than going into the shadow and facing your truths. But unless you do, that's the only way to ascend. How do you ascend when you're holding on to all of these dark energies? You can't. So, the way back into the light is through ownership, atonement, release. So yes, let the collection agency collect where it can. It's not our job to get these people to do anything. All we can do is us. Wherever you see yourself, whichever side of the coin you see yourself on, is the only person that you can control in this mix. And really, actually, at the end of the day, you have very little control even after that. You have to give to spirit and say, guide me. Guide me to being a kinder, nicer person. Guide me to being a more confident and self-focused person, so I'm not injuring myself, and so I'm not injuring others, right? So empaths injure self and is self-destruction, and narcissistic individuals wound others and is external devastation. Internal devastation, external devastation. Both is toxic as fuck. So today, yes, transmute some forgiveness to self or to others, and take some ownership to self or to others, and see where you can bring yourself back into a place of alignment and harmony and peace. With that all said, if you need help with some of the darker stuff, and you would like to talk to me about how to process through taking ownership of some of the things that you may feel shame of, embarrassed about, I will be available to hold space for you for that, and book a one-on-one with me if you would like. And the way to do that is by sending me off an email at justbebeing@gmail.com, or you can send me a message at direct message at Be Freedom on Facebook or Telegram. I also have. So any of those ways, if you want to join the Spiritual Warrior Support Group to get support from others that have been in this paradigm, and would like to collapse a little bit of duality with some spiritual warriors supporting you along the way, please join the Spiritual Warriors Support Group. We meet on Wednesdays and Sundays, and the link for that, as well as the donation link, is available in the Spiritual Warriors Support Group on Facebook. I thank you all from the very bottom of my heart, all of the warrior work that you are doing. There is up and down energy from one day to the next. You don't know what's going to come up, but all that shadow stuff has to be squeezed out. So one way or another, these things are going to be balanced. You can do it voluntarily, or you can do it the hard way. Either way, it's going to be done. The time is nigh. The time is nigh. I had zero control over my awakening, and nobody else has any control over theirs. So the awakening path has begun. It is difficult work. I am here to support you any which way that I can. And you are doing incredible work. You really are. Every tear that you cry, every scream that you shout, every journal entry, every sweat, every nauseous moment, every headache, every being stuck in bed, everything that you're going through, you are doing incredible work. And thank you, and thank you for that. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscriptions. I really greatly appreciate all the promotion that I've been getting lately as people are spreading the word about my channel. Like, it means the absolute world to me. I really hope that Spirit, well, I know Spirit, I have faith that Spirit is guiding this mission to where it needs to go, and I'm excited. I'm very excited on what's coming next. That all said, thank you. And I thank you again for all the donations as well. That's keeping me afloat right now, because I still have a lot to unfuck when it comes to my own finances. So I really appreciate all of the support that I have gotten on my own awakening, because it's been cuckoo. Peace in.